Yo, what's up, guys? What's going on? All right, so massive Natics update here for all my Natics people out there. We've got an interview here with the CEO of Natics. Going to break down a lot of things, guys. A phenomenal interview. If you don't know what Natics is, guys, it was one of the gems we picked out months ago over on the Patreon. They have massive partnerships like Tesla, Google, Amazon, Circle, Peak, and so many others. Okay, massive project in my opinion, very undervalued at this point, still a micro cap gem actually. Like I said, we got into it early over on the Patreon months and months ago, and we made like a 220% return on it. So just like Zebek, just like XCN, guys, get over to the Patreon to get in early on these projects. Again, we don't find rug pull meme coins, we find solid utility plays like this one that you're about to hear all about, and they have massive utility, massive partnerships, massive tokenomics. So get over to the Patreon, guys. The link is down below. Join a community of thousands of people who are getting in early on these projects, and also join our mentorship coaching calls that we do as well, and so much more, guys. So I'm without further ado, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Here is the full interview with the CEO of Natics. Check it out, guys.
Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk AI. I'm Esther Katz, deep tech strategist and your host. And today I'm joined by Ali-Reza Goetz, co-founder and CEO of Natics Network. Natics is building the largest decentralized camera network in the world, using AI and blockchain Solana protocol precisely to power crowdsourced mapping and physical infrastructure. From partnering with Grab to redefining what drive to earn means in the 𝗗𝗵𝘆𝗀 space, Ali-Reza is shaping how AI interacts with the real world. We'll dive into physical AI, decentralized data networks, and what it takes to scale frontier infrastructure in Web3. Welcome, Ali-Reza.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here and looking forward to our talk.
Yeah, so a few words about yourself and what is 𝗗𝗵𝘆𝗀.
So a few words about myself. I am co-founder, CEO at Natics. Background, I studied wireless communication. I have PhD in the field. My specialization was localization algorithms and location-enabled services. Mostly actually in the autonomous driving industry. We were doing R&D and building products in autonomous driving industry. 2020, I co-founded Natics with two other co-founders. It started as a computer vision AI company, but then we realized a much bigger vision, which was around the fact that camera is what I call the king of sensors. It's a very powerful sensor, especially when you combine it with computer vision AI, yet it is quite cost effective compared to LiDAR or other types of sensors. That's why Tesla has been betting on cameras for something as sensitive as autonomous driving or environmental sensing. So very easily, we said we want to own and build the largest camera infrastructure in the world without owning a single camera, the same way that Uber has built the largest taxi network in the world without owning a single taxi. And that means crowdsourcing the camera infrastructure. And that's how it connects to 𝗗𝗵𝘆𝗀. One of the best models that we knew, and we knew it from back in 2018, 2019, it was quite native to us, was a term that was coined later as 𝗗𝗵𝘆𝗀, but essentially using crypto incentive or token incentive to bootstrap a crowdsource community of physical infrastructure, right? Many people might be familiar with a project called Helium. They started building a LoRaWAN network, a kind of IoT connectivity network, where people were buying their, let's say, hotspots or antennas. They were putting it. They were basically becoming part of the network, and in return, they were getting the Helium's native cryptocurrency called HNT, if I'm not wrong. And very soon, Helium started having over 1 million devices deployed. I think to this date, they are one of the largest IoT networks in the world. And then they later on applied the same cookbook to 5G network, because it's a great match. So we implemented and used the exact same approach, and that's how Natics Network was born. The first product that we shipped to the market was a smartphone app. You download the app into your phone, you put the phone on the dashboard of your car, you drive around, we collect street level data, you earn reward. It has over 250,000 registered drivers, over 150 million kilometers of road covered. And the second product, which we recently announced and launched, is called VX360. It's a little box for Tesla vehicles. So if you're a Tesla driver, Tesla owner, you just plug this little box into the glove box of your Tesla, and it captures your entire trip from the 4 lenses of your Tesla. Actually, some newer ones also 6 lens or 6 cameras. So we capture your entire trip, and we use this data both for map making. So from the front view, for example, we can detect traffic signs. From the side camera, we can detect the shop names. It's called POI, point of interest. And also autonomous driving and physical AI. So we use the surrounding video data that we have, as well as other data, to train, test, and validate autonomous driving cars and stacks. But also we use it for robots, essentially. We can dig a little bit deeper, but that's in a nutshell about me, Natics, and what 𝗗𝗵𝘆𝗀𝗶 is.
So what's wrong with traditional mapping methods like Google Street View or TomTom?
Very expensive. It's very expensive and hard to deploy. So these vehicles that you see, you might have seen a Google Street View car, right? These bad boys cost between $500,000 to over $1 million. And this is just CapEx, right? So on top of that, you have operational costs. You have to pay the driver, and how many cars can you build when they're so expensive? So it basically, you have like 10, 15, 20 vehicles that are equipped with a ton of sensors, so they can collect obviously very high fidelity data. But it's very hard to cover the entire road. That's why it took Google 10 years to really become something usable, in my opinion, or Google Maps. And then meanwhile, there were companies that started working with crowdsourcing approaches, right? So Grab is a very, very good example. Crowdsourced map making was here before Natics, before a bunch of other companies, right? One of the OGs in crowdsourced mapping, in my opinion, is Grab itself, whom we are working with right now. And they started to build a ride-sharing app in Southeast Asia, but there was no navigation service, not good enough maps and navigation services, so that they can, they can give it to their drivers, so that they can, ride around and do what they're supposed to do. So these guys started building their own maps, and obviously, I think limitation brings creativity. So they could not afford, they didn't have the money that Grab had at the point. So they started to use a crowdsource approach. So they built a smartphone app. It's called 𝗗𝗲𝗰𝗹𝗶, I believe. They built dash cams. They built, and later on, they even started to going in towards Tesla hardware and very expensive 360 cameras, much cheaper than what Google has. And they gave this to their own network of drivers. And very soon, and as of today, they are the best map-making company in Southeast Asia. Many companies that build maps, they're licensing their street-level imagery data, or even the services, from Grab. So they are, there's no argument that there's nobody that can even compete with them in Southeast Asia, and that's why it makes it much more attractive. So just by giving a dash cam, by giving even a smartphone app to your users, and based on the fact that you can collect multifold amount of data than you do with these cars. And when you basically fuse this data, when you combine data from multiple sources, you can actually get an accuracy of a map that is as good as these expensive cars that you're putting on the road. And that's how kind of crowdsourced map making works. It's just, especially if you can tap into a network of drivers, it's a gold mine. So for Grab, it's their own drivers. For Natics, it's a little bit of a different story. We essentially try to distribute the value a little bit more fair across the value chain. and we pay our drivers with crypto incentives. So that is our driver network that is collecting data for us. We don't have a ride sharing product, but we're paying our drivers, which is how we can essentially crowdsource the data.
So can you tell us how this partnership came about and what it means for Natics? Like, how are you working? 𝗗𝗲𝗰𝗶 is super established. How does it accelerate your mission or scale your network? And how did you come about this partnership?
Yeah, so at core, we are a data curation network. The core of our business is to collect data and to do this so effectively, so efficiently, and so cover, essentially be global as a network. But that's not where the road ends. You need a lot of components to essentially be able to make your data useful, or when you sell the raw data compared to when you sell a productized kind of outcome of your data, insight, analytics, you can just make much more money, right? But you have to invest resources into building those components and so on. So we were actually looking for partners to do this, and very soon realized that Grab has a very similar strategy to what we're doing. They're completely doing everything crowdsourced, and funnily, they were looking for a partner to also expand outside Southeast Asia, because they have built this beautiful map-making pipeline, invested a lot of money into it over the years. So they have a very effective hardware stack, from dash cam to this Tesla dongle to even high fidelity 360 cameras. And they also have a very effective pipeline, AI pipeline, that converts images collected from your camera network into maps and map services, essentially. But they rely on their own driver network in Southeast Asia. They cannot provide map services in US, EU, Middle East, because they don't have that driver network. So it was a kind of a perfect match for us to work together. So the benefit for Natics is that we save years of R&D and tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And Grab essentially uses our data. So that's how it's a two-way road. So Grab is a customer of our data, but we are also using Grab's post-processing power or analytics power to convert images into maps and map services, and we are essentially monetizing it together. It's a joint thing that we're doing. And together, we're helping Grab to also expand into markets that they're not currently active in, but their technology would work perfectly, which is US, Europe, Middle East, and rest of the world.
Okay, so I'm really interested in the ethical economy behind data crowdsourcing. WorldCoin came under scrutiny for collecting and crowdsourcing biometric data from the protocol users. Can you talk a bit more about how does it work with Natics and those users who supply data?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a little bit different, by the way. I am not very paranoid about WorldCoin as well, because they essentially, from what I understand, is that they collect the hash of your identity, which means that they can match and nobody else can claim that they're you, but it's not like one-to-one. So they cannot like deepfake your face from the data that they have collected on chain. With Natics is a little bit different. So yes, when you're driving around, there's an outside facing camera that is seeing the road. But we are essentially anonymizing that data exactly at the point that the user is contributing it to our servers. So we have actually anonymization partners, some of the best in the industry, and we detect faces, number plates, we redact them immediately. This is with the Tesla network. With the smartphone network, we even took it a step further. Smartphones are equipped with AI accelerated chips. So currently, we're not even collecting images and videos from your smartphone. We have created AI models that are optimized to run on this AI accelerated chip of your phone. And they are trained to detect, for example, traffic signs, traffic lights, and so on. We call them map attributes. So it works on your phone locally. It looks at the road in real time. It detects a traffic sign. Then it just broadcasts that, hey, at this time of the day, at this location on the right side of the road, I detected 50 km/h speed limit, and that's what is broadcasted. So that is privacy by design, I would say. But this is not enough. That's why with Tesla, we're actually collecting the entire video, because we can dig a little bit deeper later as well, why we need the entire video data for physical AI, for autonomous cars, for autonomous robots, for training, testing, and validation. So because we need the entire video of your trip, therefore we use anonymization techniques to strip them off of any personal identifier information right at the point that it's coming to our network.
What about rewards?
So the way that our economy works, at the end of the day, you get both crypto and non-crypto rewards. Reason why? So I think on the crypto reward, it might be quite simple for many people that are familiar with the crypto industry. You do things, you get reward. In 𝗵𝗵𝘆, you provide data or infrastructure, and that's why you get reward. With the non-crypto, our approach was, when we build a product, you need to think of your users. Many of our users are just drivers, and we do user acquisition not necessarily as a crypto company or only towards crypto community. We go and catch any guy that has a Tesla, and then we say, hey, do you want to contribute into something bigger, get rewarded for it, and join this, essentially. So we need to have something for everyone. So of course, crypto is the main thing, but we also started providing non-crypto rewards. So we have a marketplace in our app, both in the smartphone and the Tesla kind of companion app that we have. And you can have access to a lot of electronics, health products. You get discounts, you get products themselves, and even other 𝗵𝗵𝘆 products. We have very good deals there from friend projects that we know they're high quality, and helps you essentially monetize maybe different aspects of your lives. But yeah, that's why I said we have a combination of crypto and non-crypto reward. But on the crypto side, it's basically our native cryptocurrency, Natics, that we're rewarding to the user.
What is it trading at today?
I don't know. You can probably check it out. But you mean the FTV, or I think it's around 100, 110, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, that's really cool. So they get rewarded, and is it only Asian market that is involved?
No. Actually, predominantly US, EU, in Southeast Asia. With the Tesla, it's a little bit different. Again, it's predominantly US, but then after that, it's EU. We haven't really started with Asia yet. Also, it goes into the demand of the data. So our approach is very much, focus on what matters and where the demand is, build that, and then grow globally, not just a spray and pray model. That's why we started, even with the 𝗵𝗵𝘆 app, it originally was just US and Europe, and then it expanded into East Asia, Middle East, and so on.
Okay, we figured out by now the supply side. Let's talk about the demand side. Who are your B2B customers?
So two main customers that we have. Number one is map-making companies. The companies who are building maps and map services. Many of these, to be able to provide a high quality of service, they're also what I call geospatial data aggregators. So they get data from multiple sources to fill in the gaps that they have, or ensure that there is high quality all the time. They fuse this data together and they provide it to the end users. So these are this is one category of customers that we have. They either need this data to improve their pipelines, which is for extracting map features like detecting traffic signs. So essentially, they train their AI in different jurisdictions to detect traffic signs, traffic lights, lanes, things like that. Or they use the stuff that they detect from the imagery or the detect on the smartphone to provide better services. So a very good use case, I would say, is traffic signs or dynamic traffic signs. Most of the automotive, most of the car manufacturers, they want this service from the map makers. The navigation system that you see there, I don't know if you have a modern car, you can see that you have traffic sign detection there. Some even newer cars, if you're not on FSD, it slows down when the traffic sign changes, right? So you have some detection that is happening on the car, but you also rely on a database. That's also very, very important. It gets even more important when your car is self-driving. So in Europe, they have a mandate to have a certain, coverage in terms of dynamic traffic signs. And traffic signs change a lot. You have a road construction, traffic sign changes. Even they can change by, conditions, weather conditions, and things like that. So this is a very hot use case that we have. Traffic signs, essentially detecting traffic signs and updating this on the maps. The second use case that we have, which is, I would say, far more interesting and a bigger market, is autonomous driving. So we use the 360 video data that we have, which also comes along with other types of data like GPS, IMU, accelerometer, and so on. We use this, or we essentially sell it, first of all, to autonomous driving companies, and they inject it to a part of their sim to real, real to sim pipeline. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's essentially simulation to real world and real world to simulation. I can dig a little bit deeper and how this data can help. But yeah, essentially autonomous driving companies are using this data for training, testing, and validation. And there's a real big data issue. So in map making, I would say our data is a vitamin. In autonomous driving, our data is a painkiller. It's really, you don't even, just to put it into perspective for you, the largest open source data set, autonomous driving data set, which is collected by cars equipped with cameras, it's 5,000 hours of driving data, which is, they basically equipped a couple of driving school cars in Germany with cameras and other sensors, and they collected this data set in Germany. So it's not even global, it's just in Germany, right? We went live with our Tesla product 2nd of May. Today is 23rd of May. And we collected with around 40% of our devices that had been lined, because the rest of them are still being shipped, we collected 4,000 hours. So you can imagine what this data means and how much we're talking about. I think Waymo's data set is way, way lower than open source. Autonomous driving companies, some of them have collected their own data sets, but they're not sharing it, and they're not okay with sharing it because it gives them defensibility into building their own products, right? That's why it's such a big topic for people to have this data, and it makes a big difference. It's, so we are there to supply all of them with this data and making autonomous driving a reality much faster, in my opinion, a largely adopted reality much faster.
Is there competition for those data sets? Like, I want my data sets to be exclusive to me and not my competitor to have access to it, because you are dealing with a very small market, essentially. I mean, the market is big, the amount of players is pretty small.
Yeah, but like every market, eventually this will get saturated, and we're going to have autonomous cars, and they will be running. And by the way, so here's the thing: once the autonomous cars get on the road, they collect their own data too. So it's not like Natics is only collecting data. These guys also will collect the same way that Tesla is already collecting useful data that they need for themselves. So I would say yes, eventually. Right now, they're very protective. Of course, they cannot dictate the rules for us. If they want exclusivity, they have to pay very high price, but that's not the point. But I think eventually this will fade out. Maybe not in 1 year or 2 years, but in 4 to 5 years, 6 years, it's not going to be anymore. I'm not going to share my data, or it's not. That's why.
Anymore.
Yeah, but that's why we're not really ending it with data. We're actually, same thing we did with map making, right? We got partners and we are productizing our data, certain use cases that we can sell to the map makers or even directly to ride sharing companies and so on. We're doing the same thing for autonomous driving. It's a use case called scenario generation. We essentially go through all of the videos, all of your trips, and we try to extract interesting parts of the trip where people want to test their autonomous driving functionality for those things. Simplest ones are lane change, right turn, left turn, but then it gets more complex, which we call it edge cases, when there's a jaywalking happening, when an ambulance comes into the play, right? How should a car react essentially? And these are what we call edge cases, which are very, very interesting and important. And so we're extracting those, we're kind of creating them, or transforming them into a format that you can plug into your simulation world, and then you can test your autonomous driving functionality, and then you can see how it performs. So this is kind of our way of productizing our own data, because I think, again, that's where the bigger market is, in my opinion.
Two other markets that come to my mind are real estate and brick and mortar. What other markets do you see out there?
There's a lot of smart city applications for this for this real world data. You can do 3D representation of the real world. There is you can do a lot of asset management, asset quality inspection. I have seen a lot of use cases that people can do with our data. For example, there's a company that we're also talking to right now. They can inspect the road and they can tell you if your road is ready for autonomous cars. That means you have the lanes properly marked, you have everything, in the right way, it's not faded. Because, if these things disappear, then it makes it harder and harder and more chaotic for the cars, right? So municipalities or road operators are definitely interested in this. Or, there's an easier use case, you might have seen this as well. It does inspection of the surface of the road, cracks, potholes, manholes, anything that basically causes distortion on the surface. They're detecting it, and they provide you with a heat map of your area. So you can see where it requires maintenance, where it's pretty much green and it doesn't require any. So there are a lot of these smart city applications. As you mentioned, there is also in construction, you can see how different places are. That goes more towards building a 3D world, of a 3D reconstruction of our world, but in real time. So you can see what is the progress of different parts of the world. And then there's another use case which we have also been exploring with a company called _𝗗𝗲𝗰𝗹𝗶 𝗣𝗵𝘆𝗀. Once we can use this 360 data to create a 3D reconstruction of our world, then we can use this as an engine or as a backbone for robots and cars to very precisely locate themselves, centimeter accuracy, and be able to navigate and interact with the world. The same way that a human does, right? So when you go to a, let's say, city center, you see there's a Starbucks in front of you, there's a Five Guys on your left, therefore I'm here and I have to go this way, right? This is how you kind of navigate yourself. You put yourself in relative to other POIs or objects and whatnot, and you know how to go around it and how to navigate. So this is the same thing for robots, but we need to give them context of this 3D world, and that's how our data can be used. Yeah, it's also another very, very interesting use case. I would say it's for it to really be largely adopted, it might be 3 to 5 years, because it's the time that robots are really out in the world and they need this data to be able to navigate. But it's definitely a use case that needs our data. It's called Visual Positioning System. You might have heard of it, VPS, which for that you need 3D reconstruction of the world, and for that you need imagery.
You've expressed strong optimism about 𝗵𝗵𝘆, and in fact, you even said that you're very bullish, particularly in data curation, calling them extremely undervalued for enabling physical AI. And you described 𝗵𝗵𝘆 as one of the few sectors in crypto that really makes sense. I love that, because I'm all about making sense, which we don't see much in crypto, especially if you have been there long enough, like me, since 2015. So how do you see this merge between Web3 and AI moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it just makes sense. It's disrupting real businesses, real infrastructure businesses, and it's a big part of our lives, right? We have digital infrastructure and physical infrastructure. So digital is the storage, compute, and physical is connectivity, GPS or location, which is RTK or GPS. It's sensor networks, right? This is the whole world of IoT and connectivity, right? It's a big part of our life. I don't think I have to argue here why 5G, right? I think everyone kind of agrees with me why 5G. but I can argue why building 5G using 𝗵𝗵𝘆 model or using crypto incentivization is just 10 to 100 times faster and cheaper. It just is. We have data, we have successful models and proofs that are there right now. And it's still very, very young, in my opinion, right? There's still trial and errors that are happening with a lot of, just one example is like how you design your tokenomics, how do you design your emission, how do you reward your users, right? These are all new. This was not there in the traditional infrastructure business or Web2 business. But at the end of the day, it is disrupting those, and it brings real value. And what I mean by real value, I mean these companies that are building those infrastructure sensor networks. In our case, is a sensor network. Camera is a sensor. We collect data. You generate real dollar revenue. And most of these 𝗵𝗵𝘆 projects are having a very simple mechanism: buy back and burn. So you generate the dollar, you use 50 or 80% of whatever dollar you're generating in your bank account, you go and you buy back your token and you're burning it. So you can imagine that eventually, if what you're giving to your users is far smaller than what you're buying back from the market, because the value generation is much larger, this is especially also that you're burning it, so the system gets deflationary. This is ever growing company in business, in my opinion, and especially the value accrual towards the token. So that's why I think it just makes perfect sense. And I mean, if you're an early person that contributes, I make this example as well. Imagine that you were a lot of crowdsource companies are there that they didn't have a token incentive. That's why people are really loving it. That's why we grow much faster than even other non-crypto incentivized crowdsource economies. Imagine if Uber would have given, in one shape or form, an upside into the entire company's value. I don't want to get into the legal side of it, right? Because then we get into what is security, what is not. But imagine when Uber did an IPO, those early drivers that helped Uber becoming Uber would have had some portion of Uber's success. These guys would have been millionaires, right? Or at least they could buy a house probably for themselves, even if it was a small amount. Same thing happened with Waze. It's a complete crowd. I mean, Waze is nothing without its users. The data comes from the users. Google acquired it for a couple of $1 billion. Did you get anything as a user? No, at best you got a t-shirt, right? And that's why people love a good 𝗵𝗵𝘆 model, because they feel they're part of this economy. There's definitely value accrual happening if this thing works. So I would love to go the extra mile for you, for your product, for your business, for it to work. Because this token that you gave to me, that let's say today worth $1, if you become the next Uber, this would be $1,000. So you know, that's how people are looking at it, and that's why it's just extremely powerful. It just makes sense from both supply side, which is the users wanting to come and contribute to your network, and the demand side, we're just having something that nobody else could provide, or just much cheaper and much more efficient. And you have the complete circle. You have the value accrual, which means whoever gets part of this journey as the token, if this thing works, you're going to be the winner as well.
That was not financial advice, by the way.
That is no financial advice. Many 𝗵𝗵𝘆s do it wrong, by the way, Esther. It's, again, that's why I say it's experimental. You can screw this whole thing up by making some mistakes, right? You can do mistakes in your tokenomics model. I have seen 𝗵𝗵𝘆s, for example. There was some story. People don't pay attention, but the one 𝗵𝗵𝘆 didn't have value accrual at all towards the token. So imagine, on one side, you're printing token and giving it to people, but on the other side, where is the buy pressure other than speculative open market? Where is this, right? It has to be from the utility of your network, from the businesses that you bring in using users' infrastructure or data. There have been companies that screw this up, and you know, you see this thing going right to left, not straight. So yeah, that's why it's very important to do your homework. But to be honest, now I see more and more people are doing it the right way, the legit way. You know, we're having backing from more legit institutions. That's why I just see it getting more standardized, and you know, the models are getting more legit at the end of the day. So yeah, no financial advice, but I think we're in a very good direction for this thing to boom. And you asked me also why data curation networks are undervalued because of AI. I don't know if you saw Jensen's talk beginning of the year. He said, we were going from, he was showing this chart of the growth of AI and the stages. So it was LLM, and now we're at agentic AI, where you can basically ask a large language model to perform things A to Z for you. That's an agent. And then we're going towards the holy grail, which is physical AI, autonomous cars and robots, where they just do things autonomously. They're also equipped with the logic and reasoning that an LLM or an agent has, but they also have the capability to interact in the physical world and move around and do things, right? I mean, on another world, we're extincting ourselves, in my opinion, but that's a different topic. So physical AI needs a lot of data. The same way that large language models needed a ton of data, they scraped the web. That's why these companies were hungry for data that they could scrape from wherever they could, and not everyone could build that. But I would say web is a little bit easier because you can just write some bots and then they're going to go scrape and give you the data. Physical AI also needs real world data, not web data, and you need to get it from somewhere at the end of the day, right? So how do you want to cater that level of data? You have two ways. Either you build a very good product and you push it out there, max utility, like Tesla did, right? I give you the best car in the world. I also put many sensors in this car and I collect your data. I don't give you anything for this, but I'm giving you a nice, beautiful car, right? That's one way of doing it. But how many people can build a full-blown car like that and Tesla and grow it to that stage? Or it has to be deepened. You crowdsource that data. I convince you to put a little box into your Tesla or another car brand or even a 360 camera. You collect that data for me. I give you a piece of my economy. Because paying it with dollar or euro would be way too expensive. Nobody can afford it other than maybe a few companies again in the world. We deepen in a way because we're involving you early into the upside that is there. It doesn't cost us anything as a project to get you in and to pay you essentially. So that's why it's also much more potent. And that's why I'm bullish on data curation network, because I see physical AI coming. If you're a data curation network that is collecting real world data, I mean, I'm max bullish because most of these companies, I'm talking to these companies. They have two issues: autonomous driving companies, robotics companies. I have talked to around 50 of them in the past like 6 months, 60 of them, 50, 60 of them. They have two issues. Number one is compute. Forget about decentralized compute. I love the people who are building those projects, but it's not good enough for these guys to go because of uptime, because of security reasons. They don't want to share their models into some guy's basically basement that he has a couple of H100s. They just don't feel comfortable doing that, right? I'm talking to them. So what do? NVIDIA is on the cap table of all of these guys. They give them the compute that they need. And then the second thing that they need is real world data. But who has that real world data? To the best of my knowledge, nobody really has that caliber of real world data that they need. So right now they're like, okay, where do we get this from? And that's why I think I'm just bullish. Whoever is producing this at scale, they're going to win in the next 5 years.
Okay, you're ahead of all my questions. As a marketer, this is what I'm interested in. You mentioned that relying on users actively running the app and recording video whenever they drive didn't go without the friction. Users have to remember to use the app, so you've added some gamification, extra features to keep drivers engaged beyond just earning aspect of this relationship. What have you learned about motivating the community to contribute data regularly? What engagement strategies work best? How do you grow, retain, and engage your community?
A lot I learned, but with trial and error, right? The good old way. You try things, you fail. When we launched the product, the smartphone app first, that was 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago, I think right now. we had a horrible retention rate. Stickiness was horrible. Retention was horrible. So we said, okay, this is not what we thought. Smartphone is extremely scalable. Don't get me wrong. I'm still very bullish on smartphone. But then, you put a product out there and you're like, okay, it didn't stick. What do I do? So I'm going to fast forward it into 1 year later when we tried a couple of things and what worked. And actually things at the end of the day, our retention and stickiness went anywhere from 7 to 15x in a span of 2 to 3 months when we launched the latest kind of improvement. Two things I would say that worked very well for us. One of them is utility, right? If earning is the only reason people come to your product, people would just forget about it or lose interest, right? So have functionality,
right? Because everybody complains that they don't make enough money.
That is true, but when they have the friction, they still will forget, or that's how you have less stickiness, right? So for us, we wanted to be useful to every time to your trip. Essentially, every time you go in a car and you want to drive, how can I be the most useful to you? What kind of stuff do you need? Realized one of the frictions is navigation. We had to provide a very, very good navigation because you might want to use your phone for navigation, and there's a privacy setting in your phone that if you're in another app, your camera cannot be used. So our app had to be on the foreground for you to use it. So this was a friction, and we had to be useful to you somehow. So we started adding navigation, dashcam functionality. People are saying, okay, we would also like to, now that I'm putting the phone there and camera is there, I would love to get a free dashcam from it too. So we also added dashcam functionality. You could click on a button and you could record the last 1 minute of your trip in case something happens. You had that on recording. The second thing which worked very well, other than utility, was gamification and tying that to the reward that you're getting. There's a whole industry and the science around gamification and tying it into the reward. We actually work with one of the best industry experts in gamification. Nick, he has designed over like 30-40 games, the gameplay, and we went to him with our problem, and he's a real game designer, not a deep in app product like designer, right? So we went and we explained, and I remember at that time 2 people were working on it hand in hand. Our tokenomics person who was basically building the model for how do we reward the user, how much, under what circumstances, essentially how you get reward with what formula and driving. And then the other part was the gamification. And making the story short, we designed a very strong gamification engine where users were incentivized to just come back and drive more, right? And every time you do this, you get more reward, and that creates habits in your head. That creates, and this is the most powerful thing you can build in an app, and that's how our retention and stickiness went from 7 to 15x in a span of 2 months, more or less, after launching this. I would say potent combination of crypto reward, or how you get your reward, tied to gamification. Yeah, it worked very, very well, and we tried to use the same thing through our other products, even the Tesla product. It just worked well.
How much are your top earners making?
Our top earners are like some truck drivers, and these guys are doing at least 8 hours a day, and they give the phone, some of them, to the next shift. So they work a shift just to stay on top of the leaderboard. But I don't know exactly how much per month, but I know that one of them in a span of 1 year made, I think, around 15,000 euros, dollars, right? The other one even slightly more. These were like the top 10 in the US, right? We have a leaderboard that you get according to your leaderboard ranking. You get a certain amount of token, and essentially the higher you are, you get higher reward. If you're the bottom 30% or 20%, you don't get anything. So that was another thing. Like, you want to get reward, you need to keep consistency and kind of compete. It's not like even for 1 kilometer we reward you. That was a model that was not normal in crypto, but we kind of were the first one that pushed it out. That doesn't mean that anyone would just get it. even for a small amount of driving. You need to have consistency. You need to do it in a way that you become a valuable user to us. But yeah, the top guys made, I would say, a couple of K per year, per month of driving.
Not
Did I
sure
lose
what
you,
happened.
Esther, or you lost me? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we found each other back again.
Yeah, so just to, I don't know if you heard me, but I would say a couple of €1,000 or dollars per month they were earning. They're still, if you're top of the leaderboard, I would say.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's a great addition for to an income of somebody who spends so much time driving. All right. Well, it does look like it all makes sense, and your token is up 25%. I just checked your charts. So finally, on a personal note, I'd like to explore what drives you personally. You have a rich background. You have a PhD in geospatial systems. You led previously IoT and blockchain initiatives at big firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, and you're building now like this really cutting edge startup. What inspired you to get on this journey? And what's the mission, the vision? What's next?
So funny, because we met with my co-founders in PwC, and we were working for the emerging technology group in PwC, and they identified 8 emerging technologies, which I'm working with most of them right now: IoT, AI, blockchain, robotics. It sounds, back in the time, it used to sound a little bit bullshit bingo-y, because I mean, how can you work with so many buzzwords, And we were making fun of it ourselves, but literally our
So
job was to make POCs.
those consultants still can be pretty useful sometimes, right? It's not all.
Those consultants were very useful. We were working with, I mean, I know I don't like consulting myself, to be honest with you, but like we were the, A team that they were sending to clients when they had no idea. Like, it was not about legacy system and new digital infrastructure. I hate the word digital, by the way. Whenever somebody tells me, I'm like, you're from 1990s or what, or you're a consultant and you're trying to sell some nonsense services. So whenever somebody wanted to, for example, really build or see how they can use blockchain, they were bringing us, and then usually we were building something for them very quickly in the form of a POC. So we were still building a lot of products, but sadly, I think corporates, that's another thing. I really don't like working in a corporate so far, because things go very slow. I don't like that. You're like extremely agile and quick, Decision making for us is like, even right now, I mean, with a team of like 40 people, it's like very quick. It takes minutes to hours max when we have a situation and we have to make a decision. So our products never came to life. And one of the things we agreed on, and I still think that's the case, is 3 things is going to be extremely huge and a big part of our life. It's a combination of AI, blockchain, and IoT. That's just that was the common denominator of me and my co-founders, believe it or not. We didn't say from day one that we want to build this a specific niche product to solve this a specific niche pain point. It didn't start like that. We just knew, and our job was just to prototype, and build many things. Although each one of us had experience in one direction. So yeah, I mean, what I'm excited right now with Natics is exactly to combine those 3 at perfection, solve a real world problem, and grow the business. And I don't know, generally AI used to excite me, and it's still exciting me. And I think, I definitely see physical AI being the next chapter for AI. And I always wanted to work on the next big thing. I never wanted to build a CRM system. No offense to the people who are building CRM systems. I find it very boring. Somebody will pay for it. You make a lot of money. I get it, right? There are big companies working with CRMs, but it was not something that excited me. It was not something that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, and even up to this day, like when I explain what I do to other people, it's interesting. It's a little bit sci-fi, physical AI is a bit sci-fi. I love that, at the end of the day. It can be utopian, it can be dystopian, by the way. I don't know which way it goes, but I definitely want to be part of it. It's exciting. So that's my dream, you know, to be an enabler. So that's on one side. And of course, as any startup founder, I would love to grow the company and grow the business. And there are sad and happy things about it. You grow a company, of course, you know, bigger resource, you know, yeah, more resources you have and bigger company, more money, essentially. So financials is definitely a thing there. But one of the things I also realized, I really enjoy when we have a very small team, because everyone knows everyone and you're intimate with everyone. So I know I'm gonna miss this one day, and we knew it from long time ago. But yeah, I feel sad every step that we grow and we get closer to like Series A, Series B, Series C. I mean, you cannot not grow the company. I mean, you can be efficient, but you eventually have to grow it from 30 people to 200 people. That's inevitable. So yeah, that's my vision. And I mean, generally as a company, our vision is very clear. As I said in the beginning of our talk, we want to build the largest camera infrastructure in the world without owning a single camera, the same way that Uber has built the largest taxi network in the world without owning a single taxi. And I think this is the most powerful sensor infrastructure you can build out there, more powerful than anything else. So that's why we want to build it.
Okay, sounds thrilling. Well, let's hope it's going to be utopian and not dystopian. And you are definitely contributing on the good and light side of this development. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love this conversation. We'll keep in touch. Thanks everyone who's been here with us. Wonderful weekend ahead. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. So there it is. Listen, fantastic project again. If this does not make you bullish on Natics, I highly recommend you do more research into the project. Check out their website. Check out their partnerships. Check out what they're doing, guys. Like I said, Google, Amazon, Tesla, and so many more massive partnerships. And if you want to get in early on these kinds of projects, guys, get over to the Patreon. We also got in early on Zbec. We also got in early on XC and Onyx Coin, right? And so many others down the road. So join the party, guys. I just dropped 5 more gems this week, 3 last weekend, 2 more are coming. So check it out, guys. That's 5 more microcap gems you have potential on. Get in early on these projects. The link is down below in the description. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.